Okie dokes.
Right. Welcome back. The first one was a success. People have enjoyed it. So that's good. So we're going to crack on today and crack on with the Big and Tiny podcast as it has been so wonderfully labeled by our client, Mark Humphreys. He was
The
very
big
happy about that. He was like, do I get royalties? I was like, you can take credit.
You can have credit for the big and tiny. But
Mm,
yeah, very original, I suppose, seeing as you're the tiny Kent and I'm the big Titan.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be
Anyway,
honest, in terms of classic, I'm not exactly the biggest guy yet. So,
yeah.
yeah.
But you're going to do whatever it takes to be that biggest guy, aren't you?
Yeah.
Mm. And
As
that is
in,
exactly what we're doing.
be patient. It's what that
Be patient. That is the doing whatever it takes. And that's what we were going to discuss, wasn't it, today, in terms of the podcast, the doing whatever it takes attitude to actually gain everything. Now, what I find really, really funny, right, about this industry is I don't know if you've had it a lot or not, but everybody who comes to me and applies, right, in a bodybuilding realm, and especially some guys who have a decent frame, but they need a lot of refinements and they need a lot of metaphorical cuddles and things like that. Because, again, let's face it, being coaches, it's more than just kind of like, right, here's your nutrition plan, here's your training plan, off you fucking, I'll speak to you in a week. There's a lot of emotional attachment that goes within coaching, and I don't see it a lot in coaching these days. There isn't any kind of emotional attachment at all. It's just like, nah, do, this is what you need to do, so crack the fuck on. But I get a lot of people come to me and they basically say, I want to be an IFBB pro. And it's like, okay, that's great. Do you actually know what it entails to get there? Because this is a
Yeah, I think I have it. I've had it a few times where I've got a few lads who usually from the US because it's a lot easier to turn pro over there because they hand out pro cards like fucking sweet. Um,
Mm.
and they've got this impression that they're like they could turn pro in 2 years because they've seen a 22-year-old who's a genetic anomaly get a pro card from spamming the shit out of drugs from 17 to 18 onwards, and they've managed to get a pro card by the time they're 22. Great. I think a lot of people are when they come into the sport, they are full of the delusion of how short a period of time they think they're going to be able to turn pro, and they think they'll turn pro in 2 shows. They think they'll just do a regional, do a fucking pro qualifier, and they'll be a pro bodybuilder. And they
Yeah.
don't realize the amount of time, the amount of effort, the investment in terms of money that it's going to take in order to progress to that goal. And a lot of them don't even know if they like bodybuilding yet. They just like going to the gym, or they think they do, or they like watching show day vlogs, and they think that that is what bodybuilding is. And yeah, it's really not.
No, absolutely. I mean, the IFBB Pro card, don't obviously get me wrong, but realistically, it hasn't enhanced your life that much, has it?
No, I
No.
think people know me more for just doing my Q&As, to be honest. I'm probably my ass rather than having a pro card. So yeah, it
Yeah,
is one of those
which
things.
can tell.
Like, people will always say, like, how does it feel having a pro card? Amongst bodybuilders, there is obviously, if they know that you have a pro card, there is an air that they're like, you have a pro card. You may get some people that even doubt the legitimacy of people's pro cards because
Mm,
if it turn pro in an easy show, they're like, well, you shouldn't even be a pro anyway, and that sort of
mm.
thing, which is something you have to deal with if it is going to be a thing. But like, there is within bodybuilders, yeah, there's a slight run in like jump up, but
Hierarchy. Yeah.
in terms of actually what it means, no fucking different. A lot of the time when people turn pro, the elation is great. And everyone's looking at you being like, well done. Your phone blows up. Like, you get so many messages. You can't even fucking speak to people you actually know for the best part of a day because you've got so many messages from people you've never even fucking heard of who are there like, I
Mm.
followed you for so long. That's great. Support's fantastic. But it produces this massive amount of like huge dopamine hit. And then the next weekend, somebody else turns pro and everyone's forgotten about you. And
Yeah.
you're back to being what was the best amateur, or maybe in some cases not, and you've just managed to turn pro. Um, and now you're the shittest pro, or you're,
Yeah.
or at most a mid tier. Um,
Yeah.
so
And this
it
is the
changes.
conversation that we had, wasn't it? Because
Yeah.
after you turned pro, this was the conversation that we had, obviously getting you back into the swing of getting into your off season and recovering and that kind of thing. And I remember the exact conversation that we had. And I said, you have got to remember at this point, Alex, you are the worst pro that there is in a current lineup because you have literally just turned fucking pro.
Yeah.
So it's not about having this air of, okay, now I'm a pro. Not that you were like this, but I've seen that a lot. Now that I've got this pro card, I am the most arrogant individual that I have ever met, bar myself. And it's not about having that arrogancy because you have to remember when you have gained that pro card, whether it was an easy show, whether it was a hard show, I don't really give a fuck about, whether it was easy or not. You still have gained a pro card, which is amazing. But you have to be able to accept it gracefully and not be an arrogant prick because at that moment in time, you are the worst pro in a pro lineup. So you have now got to work your fucking bollocks off in order to actually stand up against the pros. Because if you remember the pros that were on that show day the next day after you got your card, I was saying, fucking hell, Alex, it's a good job you didn't jump on stage on that day.
I spoke to Jack Sullivan immediately as soon as he handed me the pro card. He was like, "See you at the pro show tomorrow," and I was like, "No,
No.
like, no, you won't." He was like, "Shane," and I was like, "You're either gonna do the thing where you give me like fourth or fifth just because I'm just turned pro," and you're like, "Cool, have that." Or I'll come dead last. And the guy that won that show, Laszlo, who's like fucking Hungarian Superman, I was like, he's 6'2", he's fucking huge. He's also very good looking. I was there like, little old me, there's no point in me standing against that yet because he'll just floor me.
Plus, we wanted pizza, so
Yeah, and I was like, look, my calling card at this point is my condition. Because I'll be smaller than everybody, and I was like, I want to go out. I just like, I don't really care for doing a the first pro show I do. Like, great, but I've got to pay
yeah.
$275 now to buy my
Hmm.
card, and I was just like, just spent a load of money to get here, and I want to kind of enjoy the moment. So I'd much
Yeah.
rather have that sort of elation and just be allowed to enjoy the win rather than being like, nah,
Mm.
more. And
Mm.
some people relish in that. Some people want to get on stage straight away with pros to see where they are. It's not a realistic picture because you know you're going to be shit. So like,
Yeah.
I'd rather wait, build up a bit of time, and actually go away, put on some muscle, fix anything that needs fixing, and push on from there. I think a lot of people, once they've turned pro, they think, well, their training is perfect and their diet is perfect and they know everything. And even when you turn pro, there's so much more to go. Well, especially if you have to squeeze into a classic cap, there'll be elements of your physique that can come up. So you need to look at your physique really critically and go, right, what do we need to improve or ask for a judge's feedback? I tried to, and they just didn't give me any. But
Mm.
yeah, it's a case of stepping back and going, right, okay, I need to prepare for the pro debut, of which I, fingers crossed, hope I might get into a top 10 or a top 5 in a good show. You
Mm.
don't do, I'm gonna fucking, first pro show, I'm gonna qualify for the Olympia, which is what people have the attitude going from winning to win their pro card. People go, I'm gonna win my pro card on my second show. Because it's the first time you do a pro qualifier, which to be fair, my first pro qualifier was my sixth show. And I've been competing for years by that point. So, are you frozen?
Mm.
No, you're still there. You
Mm.
just weren't making any noises.
No.
So yeah, it was just a case of like people carry forward that attitude of, oh well, now I've got a pro card. The next step is the Olympia. It's like, no, mate. The next step is to
No.
be able to stand next to somebody who can come top 3 in a pro show, let alone guys that go to the Olympia.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny with what you were saying in terms of like, oh, I know everything about training and I know everything about nutrition. Have you seen some of the pros who train?
Well, yeah,
Like I sometimes look at them and I think to myself, wow, like you actually turned pro training like that?
yeah.
I'm not saying that I know everything about training, absolutely not. But you know one thing that I do know about? I do know about intensity because intensity is where the most and the majority of people lack. They can train, they like rip shit up and they move things from A to B, but the intensity with correct form and correct directional path in terms of bar path and things like that, that's where they fail on. And I just
There's
always think to
one
myself,
exercise where I've seen that murdered recently, and people have gone back to doing it in that way. T-bar row.
yeah, I was just about to say barbell bent over row or a
No,
T-bar row. Yeah.
T-bar row
Mm.
specifically on a chest supported T-bar row. It's like they're doing it and like they're pulling themselves full back, and it's like, why have you got a chest support at that point? Like you're
Yeah,
not even
exactly.
using it.
Nah, you're just doing some hyper extensions with a shitload of weight, and then you're doing that little head jut thing, obviously,
Oh,
to
I
move
did straight
yourself
hammer set on
forward.
in the last few reps, and it's like,
Yeah, exactly.
Fill
You're
out
just doing a chicken
harmony, I
bomb.
guess. The rest of it's just like back lean.
That's it. That's it. But I mean, this is what I always think. And I mean, if we look back to where we first got together, your training was absolutely dog shit. And I was like, mate, what on earth are you doing? Let's actually refine this movement just a little bit because you are a strong motherfucker. And I know that you can train a hell of a lot better than this. And then all of a sudden, guess what? Your physique actually looked like classic rather than a fridge with arms and legs, which
Yeah.
was beautiful. But this is what I see a lot. And when people think that they train hard, they don't train hard. They don't train hard at all. You know what one of my favorite things is? So when I get videos back from people and they send me their training videos, and I'm just like, okay, we can really push this in terms of the levels of intensity. So I want to do a test with you. And I think that we should put this out to the listeners and things. I want them to actually submit their videos for it. Get on a leg extension. Get on a leg extension and put on about 60% of your 10 rep max. So, say for example, you do 10 reps using like 65. I'm just pulling a number out of my arse here, by the way. But use 60% of that. So, you're going to be doing like 40 kilos, 35, 40 kilos. Hit 70 reps. Now, most people, 70 reps, go and do 70 reps. And I don't care how many times you have to stop and have a breath or do it, and you have to do singles and everything else, because I guarantee you can hit like the first 25 are easy if you're using 60% of your 10 rep max. Do the first 25, then you're going to hit 35 and you're going to be like, okay, fine, I'm feeling it now. Keep on pushing and keep on pushing until you hit that 45 barrier, until you are absolutely screaming. Because let's face it, quads can just keep on going and going and going. We walk around on our legs every day. We climb up the stairs, we get in and out of cars, we stand up and down all day. Quads can just keep on going. But it's your mentality that's really pushing you through that pain barrier, which causes that intensity to complete and utter failure. That is what I want to see when somebody does their intensifiers. If you just kind of like pussy out and you do like 80 kilos and you hit 10 reps and then you just stop and get up and just check your phone or, log it in your logbook, you ain't working fucking hard enough. And this
Yeah.
is where most people.
Well, there's been a big like persuasion to move people away from intensifiers for a long time. There was because apparently that didn't cause muscle growth. Apparently,
Oh, no, of course it didn't.
training with intensifiers because you couldn't log them. Apparently, that meant that they weren't something to be utilized, and you're just there like so. The only way to grow your muscle apparently is only to progressively overload. I had an argument on TikTok with somebody about this. They're talking about bicep curl. Like one of my mates, Conor Launder, he's doing pyramid sets for his biceps because he was like, and he's like, my arms are fucking blown up doing that. And the kid was like, well, actually, wouldn't you be better off just doing two straight sets and constantly progressively overloading? And I was like, have you thought about the fact that if you start using 100 kilos on a bicep curl, it's just going to be all body lean? Like you're not actually going to be.
Yeah. It's not just that though. I mean, you can have the same argument in terms of like deadlifts, stiff-legged deadlifts, glute drive, anything else. There's only so much weight that you can progressively overload. What happens when you reach the top of your strength curve? What are you going to do next? You're going to lift a house?
Yeah.
You're going to lift a car? You're not going to
Well,
do that. You have to
that's the
find
thing.
a
That's
different
that's
way
what they'll
to.
do. I don't want to badmouth Jordan Peters here, but like he is constantly looking for strength progressions. He's not really a bodybuilder; he's a gym bro. But like he's constantly looking for strength progressions, and all he does now is really low end rep range stuff because he cares about how strong he is. He's not
Mm,
caring purely about muscular stimulation. He just wants
mm.
to be strong, and people copy Jordan because they go, "He's really fucking big." It's like, yeah, Jordan's also had a shitload of injuries. And
Yes.
he's not a good bodybuilder. He knows that. That's why he doesn't compete. Like his, obviously based upon what he's done over the years, his stomach is quite large, so that's the
Mm,
problem for him. But he is freakishly strong and very fucking large. But he's
mm,
not a good bodybuilder because the proportions aren't there. So when we're thinking about bodybuilding, it's got to be about muscular stimulation, not just about lifting weights from A to B. And it comes into the young guys. The young guys want to lift big weights because it's impressive. It's
mm.
that instant like, oh, I deadlift five plates or squat five plates or bench four plates, this, that, and the other.
Mm.
Like
How much you bench, bro?
yeah, you bench four plates, but you've got a flat chest. Like
Yeah,
you,
you're bouncing it off. You're not controlling it. You're
for
not using it.
girls, hip thrust 7 plates,
Butchered. Yeah,
no
butchered.
arse. Yeah, no arse at all. And you're there like, if you were using the weight properly, you would have the muscle to reflect that. And I've chatted with a few guys recently, and that's always the thing that it comes back to is like, if you don't look like you can handle that weight, you probably shouldn't be using it because you clearly aren't connecting with the muscle. And mind to
Mm.
muscle connection is also another thing that all the science bros tried to disprove because they were like, oh, well, you can't measure it. It's like, well, it's purely anecdotal, isn't it? Whether someone feels something or not is down to them and how much effort they put into that exercise. Lats are a massive case for this. I see so many dudes these days with no fucking lats. It's all about connection. You have to be able to
Yeah.
feel it. And with lat exercises, it's so person dependent. It's going to look really fucking weird for one person and it's going to look beautiful for another. So you've got
Yeah.
to let people just do their own thing. And this is why Instagram has fucked people up a bit when it comes to training.
Well, it has because you've got influencers as well. Now, going back to the girls with the booty thrusts and things like that, you see influencers and they're like, grow your glutes with me. And they have the little booty bands and they're doing side steps and spider curls and various other, not spider curls, what am I on about? The laying down, push. But you're not going to have big glutes if you're going to do spider curls. The spider kickbacks, and stuff like that. And the thing is what girls aren't understanding here is that that's not all they fucking do. And the band work is not going to do realistically anything apart from maybe, increase the mental connection between their brain and obviously their arse before they do it. But then they do too many things. And what they also don't take into account, there's a very, very good influencer online at the moment. I've forgotten her name, but she's got an amazing physique, absolutely incredible physique. But this girl had glutes before she even set foot in the gym. So genetically, she was predisposed to having gifted glutes. And she's doing these. And when she does she does like her barbell RDLs, or any kind of hip hinge, it's gash. It really is fucking crap. And I'm just like, girl, you do not know how to train glutes. And I find a lot of people are getting wrong with these kind of things. A B stance RDL is one of my favorite movements for glutes. I fucking hate them. I really hate them, but the connection that I get personally for a B stance RDL, especially using a dumbbell, is fantastic. Now, I've got dodgy hips because, I'm old and I've got dodgy hips. So it is the case. But I have to do mine supported. So I raise my foot elevated behind me and I actually hold on to something that's going to keep my hips nice and stable. One of the biggest problems with glute training is the fact that the hips are unstable. Now, because I've got dodgy hips, I need to create that stability by doing something else. So for me, I think it's great. It's a horrible, horrific exercise, but a B stance, anything is horrible. Yeah, because you have to work each individual glute and you really have to like kick the ass out of those muscle fibers by doing a B stance. But if you do not know how to hip hinge in any modality whatsoever and you don't know how to squat, then realistically you are not working the glutes in the ranges that they are made to. If you think about abduction, if you abduct and you hip hinge, you're 50% of the way there. In fact, probably more 80% of the way there. As long as you can abduct and you can hip hinge, you're going to grow some fucking glutes. But
Yeah.
you've got to be able to do them efficiently. Going back to what we were talking about doing the whatever it takes to achieve these kind of things. Like me just saying, I hate the B stance RDL. Do you know what? I want a great set of glutes and I want a bigger ass because I have a poor relationship with my arse. I hate it. I've always hated it. People go on about poor relationships with food. I have a poor relationship with my glutes. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. So I am doing everything that I can in order to progress my glutes to the point where I'm happy with them. Am I going to shoot Mediform in my glutes? Probably not, because I don't feel bad about it.
Oh, honestly, that at the minute, the number of people that use stuff like SEO, Metaform, all this sort of stuff, obviously they don't want to call it sinful, but it's what it is. The number of people that use it, I was shocked. There are so many fucking idiots that, oh, it's just MCT oil. What happens when that breaks down and all the silica in that shit goes through your fucking kidneys? Oh, fun enough, you end up with kidney failure. And your coach is sat there going, oh, but your arms need to be bigger, bruv. And doesn't hand you an arm program. He tells you to put fucking Mediform or MCT oil in your fucking arms. Like,
Yeah, for a better peak.
yeah, they're not though, are they? The problem is, like, that's a peaked arm. That's a
Mm,
bicep. You can see the split. Yeah. These guys have just got a lump.
a bubble.
Yeah, exactly. Their bicep is flat. There's no development of the peak, and you can develop a peak. It's not genetic. You can very much develop a bicep peak. You just have to train them properly, fully supinate the wrist. That's it. But they don't know this, and they just go, "Oh, you need to be bigger," and they just look like they've got fucking clouds for arms. But the problem is
Mm,
everybody's got clouds for arms. So
mm,
they just
mm.
go, "Oh, well, everybody takes Metaform, so I should take Metaform." And it's like, okay, well, have fun when your kidneys give up on you when you start getting smaller when you're in your 30s and 40s.
Yeah, absolutely. But people don't care about kidneys. People don't care about kidneys. People don't care about liver. And you know what? I was having this conversation the other day with one of my clients when we were going through his blood work. And unfortunately, he is predisposed. He's got a genetic abnormality in terms of the fact that he has really, really, really terrible cholesterol levels. It is hereditary. Unfortunately, it is. He was just dealt with that,
Some people
nasty.
just built different. Yeah.
Some people just have the nasty stick. He's just unlucky, unfortunately. But because of the cholesterol levels, because of that, because his lipids are completely skewed as well. So there are certain drugs that we can use for that individual and certain ones that we can't. Reason being is because the majority of drugs are hepatotoxic. They are toxic to the liver and they are, of course, toxic to the kidneys. Now, when the kidneys start to fail, that's when you have got a little bit of a problem because kidneys do not recover. Because kidneys do not recover like the liver does. The liver has obviously regenerative properties, and you can live without part of your liver, hence the reason why you have lobe liver transplants and things like that. But when the kidneys start to fail, then you're in a world of shit because this is when dialysis comes into equation. Because otherwise, if people didn't have to worry about their kidneys and they did have regeneration of the kidney tissue and the kidney function itself, then we wouldn't have dialysis. We would just basically repair the kidneys. So for my guy, we have got to go through a complete and utter huge liver function element in terms of making sure his liver is going to be able to function properly whilst going through his PEDs. And we're going to use less hepatotoxic drugs. Now, people literally just think that orals are the only thing that are going to be affecting your liver. Think again, bro, because all of your drugs are going to be metabolized by the liver, including things like Masteron and Primobolan. Primobolan is less liver toxic than Masteron is, hence the reason why if you are going to be using Masteron, you use a smaller amount than Primobolan
It's
because
also not as powerful.
it is more powerful than
I think Macron
Primobolan.
is more powerful than Primo.
Yes, it is.
I think so.
Hence the reason why yes, in terms of androgen load, yes, it is. Because that's the reason why you use less of it in relation to having Primo. You can have more Primo in comparison to Masteron. If I have a female who goes on to Primobolan and she does not react well to it, we use Masteron instead because they're very, very similar. However, because of the androgenic load being so much higher, we obviously have to use a very small dose of Masteron. So as somebody who could use, as an example, 70 milligrams of Primobolan a week, which for my personal preference, that's quite high for a female. But if you were going to use Masteron to the same load effect, you would only actually use 30 milligrams of Masteron as opposed to 70 milligrams of Primobolan. Have the same kind of effect, but you're not going to have any of the horrible issues. You are still going to have issues because, like I just said, it is liver toxic, but we can control various other elements from that perspective as well.
So I've heard interesting stuff recently, which is people saying that Masteron is actually chemically more similar to stuff like Proviron and is not as similar to Primobolan as previously thought. But results would suggest otherwise. I reckon
Results would definitely
yeah,
suggest
I reckon
otherwise.
these
Yeah.
guys just got fake Masteron and it's actually EQ or stuff together
Mm,
because they just
yeah.
that doesn't sit right at all with how people actually react to the drug. So whatever,
No,
that's a
not
side
at
point.
all.
Anyway, you were talking about female drug use, which is a point which has been quite interesting to look at these days. You have, I think, well, you see it in the comments of some of these women that have been masculinized, and it's very evident that a lot of people are turning around and going, "Holy shit, you didn't look like that 2, 3, 4 years ago," because we can literally look at your Instagram and go back and be like, "That used to be somebody else, and they look pretty trashed now." And it is definitely concerning when you have
Mm,
girls who are, say, even just like not even obviously bikini, but like the girls in bikini generally look the same. When we go one up the run, we go to like figure. Some of the girls there, like the girl the woman that had just won 8 Olympia titles, she's basically natural. She's just got muscle. And then you see other girls that compete in figure, and the jaw growth and the hairline receding is noticeable and concerning, and they obviously must notice it. But it seems to be a thing of I've got to do X amount of drugs in order to be competitive. When the person who is winning, granted they may be a genetic anomaly, they're not using
mm,
much and they're being patient. And she's quite old.
I think it comes down to an aspect of one, doing whatever it takes. And just like the Goldman's dilemma, which we have discussed in many of things, but also in relation to not understanding how the drug actually works. So I've seen women, especially wellness athletes as well. Well, wellness and figure, to be honest with you. And I've seen women who are running testosterone, Anavar, Masteron, and Tren, all in the same cycle. And this is a huge, well, I mean, it's a massive amount of cycles anyway. Even if you were to only have like, say, 30 milligrams of each, it's still a massive amount. And it's literally just the same kind of cycle that you would put a man on, just on a smaller dose. Now, if you think that you're not going to get any kind of virilization side effects from that, then, think again. And I know we're talking about, a receding hairline and jawline and stuff like that, but you're not actually looking at the other aspects that are being considered here. Depression of the hormonal axis, which also does affect the pituitary and the thyroid gland. Then they're coming back with huge amounts of issues in their off season because they're eating a small amount of calories but gaining a fuck ton of weight because of obviously a rebound, because they've just ripped thyroid out, detrimented everything, and all of a sudden, you have no metabolism. Then, of course, you've got the depression of the hormonal axis because you have no female estrogen anymore. And let alone to the fact because they want to get a lot drier and a lot harder, they're throwing AIs in. So they're throwing AIs in when they're already hormonally defunct at the end of the day because they're running high DHT, they're dieting. So, of course, as soon as you diet, your hormones are starting to obviously, we don't want to reproduce. So because we don't want to reproduce because we're in a state of famine, that's the reason as to why the hormonal axis goes down. You've increased testosterone and increased DHT. So again, why on earth are we going to include an AI at this point? You don't need to get drier based on adding in an AI.
Plus,
Aromatase is not going to fucking help. It's just going to make you feel like shit,
and being like
really.
classic level dry is not part of certain categories. Like
No, no,
maybe
no, not at
women's
all.
physique, and that would be about it.
Yeah, but then they throw Winstrol in as well, right at the end. So that's another oral that goes on, which is again has a liver reaction in terms of anabolism for a liver reaction. The worst liver reaction, I think, in terms of like a drug use that I've seen, based on blood work per 100 milligrams ish, is halotestin.
Yep.
Halotestin is the worst one that's caused really bad liver toxicity. That, and funnily enough, your good old neighborhood Superdrol and Anadrol. Those are
Yeah.
the ones
So I
just
was about to
underneath
say
everything.
Superdrol because it gets people go, oh well, I need to take Halo for the 4 weeks out, 2 weeks of Halo, and then 2 weeks of Superdrol, and you're there like you're still fat.
Yeah, don't work. It doesn't actually work. It
What
is
makes
quite
carbs better,
funny.
bruv? So that would mean you
Mm.
need a smaller load, doesn't it? Rather than putting in the 1,200 gram load of carbs you've just done, wouldn't it? Because it uptakes carbs better. But no, that's
Yeah,
not what that means. It means I can put more in and it will somehow be done better, so I'll look better.
yeah,
No, it means your
doesn't work
body's more
like that.
efficient at putting it in places so you don't need as much.
Exactly. I mean, I think that the liver is far too underrated and overlooked realistically in this particular day and age. I really, really do, because people are starting to really focus on gut health and thyroid health. But again, they're missing out all of the other vital organs. I mean, I've been banging on about gut health, protect your digestion, protect your metabolism, protect your gut, and protect your thyroid. I've been banging on about this for fucking years. And then, like 2 years ago, thyroid was apparently the gland of the month. Everybody was jumping on thyroid, thinking like, oh, maybe it's actually really important. Well, no
Yeah, but
fucking shit.
then they started a comp season again, or they took all their clients off thyroid and everybody got fat super quick and they didn't have a fucking clue how to fix it. So they went, everybody take T4, do it now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then
exactly. And what does
everyone was
that
like,
do?
take T4 in your off season because it helps keep your thyroid regular. Fuck yourself, osteoporosis.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. It doesn't actually help at all. It really,
No.
really doesn't. But the liver plays a massive effect in terms of your off season, and you've got to be able to protect your liver because realistically, it's what some of the major functions of it is dietary fat breakdown. Now, how many guys do you see piling down a fuckload of fat in their off season? Absolutely loads of them, a load of them. Nutrient partitioning, all of those carbohydrates that they're going to be taking in. If their liver's fucked, their nutrient partitioning ain't going to fucking work. Your brain, okay, your brain actually being properly fueled. How many times have people actually you've seen they've got major brain fog because they're just eating a fuck ton of carbohydrates?
Major brain fog.
Um, yeah, exactly. But thyroid hormone conversion, obviously, we know that it happens in the gut, but it also happens in the liver. And also, if you are going to be running a shitload of gear, your liver is important for estrogen detoxification. So if you aromatize the shit out of some gear instead of actually throwing some AIs in, it might be down to the fact that your liver isn't actually working very well. So you're saying that you're going to do whatever it takes apart from remain healthy.
But that's apparently people don't care about that, do they? Because they don't consider they go bodybuilding is an unhealthy sport, so that's not something I've got to consider. If I do, I saw an argument the other day, which was if you, what's the difference between taking 10 years worth of drugs versus taking that amount of drugs in three? They were like, what's the damage difference there? I was like, all right, a car engine is designed to run for X thousand miles. If you redline that engine, it will not even last a tenth of that. So
No.
it's not the fucking same. Like, go and put nitrous oxide in your car and see how long it lasts for, mate. Like, so stupid.
It is a stupid question. It really, really is a stupid question.
Mhm.
But I mean, yeah, people
Yeah,
people who do whatever it takes, but they don't want to train hard.
no.
They don't want to eat properly. They just want to play macro Tetris and eat Rice Krispie square bars and dark
Cereal,
chocolate,
it's cereal.
only fat bars.
Yeah, it's
Huh?
cereal. Like I've seen people eating cereal three times a day, and they're like, "Oh, but it digests so well." I was like, "No, it's been engineered to go through your when you eat it, it makes it more palatable, so it feels like it's going to move quicker and it's easier to get down. You shouldn't be focusing on how easy food is to get down. You need to fucking chew it in the first place. If your quantities
Mm.
of your meals are too large, just have more meals. Like spread
Yes,
your food out
exactly.
more."
It's a bit more.
And it's oh, but I'm already eating 6 meals a day. Okay, don't eat so many meals. Why is it so hard for your body to put on weight? Like, I know some people really struggle and they've got to eat a lot of food, but you need to come up with nutritional strategies in order to make your food denser, not just go, oh, well, cereal and whey, mate.
You see, I don't get the whole cereal thing. I'm not a fan of cereal. I don't like people using cereal as like a post-workout. They talk about like replenishment of glycogen and that kind of thing.
High
Realistically, sorry
glycemic
to break it
index.
to you guys. Yeah, sorry to break it to you guys, but in perfect honesty, you're not going to deplete that much glycogen as you do a bodybuilding split. Like for an example, on an arms day, you are not going to deplete your entire body's worth of glycogen from that. You
Leg
will
day.
deplete certain, well, even leg day,
It's gonna
you
happen.
will deplete glycogen within certain muscle groups. Yes. But does that mean that you have to chow down 400 grams of carbs worth of cereal after that leg day? Absolutely not. Is that going to help your digestive processes? Absolutely not. Is it actually going to give you a micronutrient dense profile? Absolutely not. People who say to me, "When what do you do in terms of setting up diets?" And this is why I do not save or share my clients' diets on Instagram and stuff like that, because everybody's diet has got to be set up to them and them specifically. We obviously have gone through your diet because in off season I give you a little bit more flexibility and that kind of thing, but I still want to know what you're eating. And I might change this, change that because of the microdiversity that we do need. But for the majority of my clients, they all have different parameters. They all have different things that they need to include into their diet. People who have sluggish thyroids, for example, they will have a different diet as opposed to somebody who has estrogen dominance, because it all has to be based upon blood work, based on feel, based on performance, based on recovery, based on look. Everybody has to have something different that is unique to them. It's all very well and good saying, here are your macros, off your fuck. Don't fucking work like that.
No.
Because when people say to me, what do you do in terms of figuring out, somebody's baseline and that, I don't give a shit about calories. Calories is a unit of measurement. I do not give a fuck about it. What I give a shit about is a micronutrient dense diet plan. That's what I care about. Because if you have got micronutrient aplenty, then you are going to be healthy. If you are healthy, you are going to be able to digest and metabolize more food, which means that you can be the outlier, meaning that somebody of my great height of 5'1" on a good day can eat over 4,500 calories in my off season and still maintain my weight around about 58 kilos.
I didn't get up to that high.
I know you didn't get that
I
right.
don't need a lot of food though. That's the thing. This is when people are like, I mean, I eat half the amount of protein that people of my size eat. Um, so there's that. So I'm missing like
You
a
don't
good.
need it.
I'm missing like 1,000 calories out of that. But yeah, this is the people that I
Yeah.
get questions about that all the time. Like I know people who are literally the same height and weight as me, and they're eating 360 or 400 grams of protein a day, and I'm there like 180. And they're like, surely you're missing out on gains. I'm like, doesn't look like it, does it?
No, it doesn't look like it at all. And have a look at how we actually set up this last little phase that you did in terms of, okay, you need bigger legs. You need bigger legs to match your upper half. Okay, fine. You want bigger legs? I'm going to give you bigger legs. We made you train hard. We made you eat efficiently. We ran a small cycle, which was small, kept a good track on your blood work, obviously, because very important, kept a look on all of your biofeedback markers, if people aren't aware, me and Alex are very close in terms of coaching client, but also, we're good friends as well.
And physical
But
distance.
Alex will tell me literally, yeah. Alex will literally tell me everything that is going on with his body. I never have to worry about his libido or anything like that. But if there is any kind of question about it, he will bring it up immediately. There is no embarrassment attached to it. That very famous video that we put up, that reel, when you were talking about your nipples just feeling just that little bit sensitive,
Oh
and I
no,
had
it's
to
the one where you
pay to
grabbed my butt.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
that one going. Now you've still got some jiggles, so there's more to come off.
Well, it was just so many dudes being like, "How do I get this job?" It's like you have to,
I know.
and not a perfect, sadly. So
No, exactly.
yeah,
But all of these things, we knew exactly what to put in place and how. And how many genes did you rip through based on the fact that your adductors had grown that large?
yeah, I broke 4 pairs of jeans.
Four genes. And realistically, your growth phase was what, 4 months?
Yeah, it wasn't that long,
Yeah.
was it? You only
No?
went up like what, 5 kilos, 6 kilos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was all positive weight. You maintained all of your leanness. You got strong as fuck. The intensifiers that we used were specific to you. The amount of people who said, "Oh, I'm trying to do Alex Kent's leg day," I'm like, please do not do his leg day because I know what that entails. And I have done that specifically to him because he trains like a fucking monster. You are not a monster. You are a slightly overgrown Milky Bar kid. And right now, you do not have the intensity or the muscle mass or the strength in order to actually do a session like that.
Well,
And it's
this is when I see a lot of people asking me like, how many sets do I want to be doing per body part per week? And I'm like, well, if you just started out in training, you may as well ignore people that say do one working set per week because
yeah.
you don't have the skill on an exercise to be able to produce the intensity required in order to produce the necessary stimulus. So you need to learn how to produce this, and then we can consider the other stuff. Because
Mm,
if you don't have the exercise skill and you can't stabilize the movement and then move through the plane of motion in full control of the weight you're using, then you're never going to be able to properly perform the exercise. And that ultimately dictates how many sets you need to do, the amount of stimulus you're able to produce within a set. So as you say, when you see people who don't train to failure, but they think they're getting to failure, it's self-perception. And a lot of people rush a set. They go down too quick on the eccentric and they bounce out of the hole and they're out of breath. Then they haven't taken the muscle, particularly on legs, they haven't taken the muscle of failure. They're just out of breath and they're not
mm,
to actually push that set very far. And they have a self perception that the session was really difficult because maybe they're unfit or they're not, they haven't got the exercise skill or any a number of factors. Maybe they're not even fueled properly. But still, it's one of those where doing one set per exercise as a beginner is really bad because you need to just
mm,
go into the gym and do as much as you can in order to acquire the skill. Like, why do you think I
mm,
have the arms I had? And I have, and I've had them for fucking years. It's because I went and hit arms a shitload, and I wasn't afraid of overtraining. I would do 40 sets an exercise, like 40 sets a workout when I did arms, and it didn't kill me. I didn't lose muscle. I learned how to train my arms properly. Granted, it eventually got to a point where I could produce enough stimulus where it would wear me the fuck out, and I was like, okay, this is probably too much now. After much stubborn debate in my own mind and getting ill every month for about 6 months. Um, and then eventually I drop the volume off. And at that point, you're able to progress further because you get stronger and you already have the skill to produce the internal stimulus. You need to become really good at exercising in order to be a good bodybuilder. You aren't
mm.
going to magically put on muscle just because you're doing one set an exercise. That isn't going to be something that helps you at all.
Nah, nah. And I found that as well with people who do legs, where they only do like two working sets of an exercise or top set, back off set. Oh wow, very inventive, bra. But again, you use your legs all of the fucking time. Sometimes people need more volume in terms of their legs. They really, really do, But again, it comes down to how well you can execute it with how much intensity. People say, "Oh, I can't wait to train legs with you, Vic." I'm like, you cannot train legs with me. I murder people on legs, and people have, they've completely underestimated what I can put themselves through. We literally do 4 or 5 exercises, and they cannot walk on the way home. They cannot walk because they have never ever been pushed to that level of intensity. Whereas I've done the exact same amount as they have. I've probably pushed with more intensity, but because I've been doing this for a very fucking long time, and I know how to take myself there, that's the reason why I can obviously recover from it because I know my exact body points. I know when I'm doing too much. I went into the gym the other day and I did my hack squat and I was supposed to do 3 sets on hack squats. And after my second set, I was like, I am done
Yeah,
because
you
that
can do
was
that.
fucking.
Do like, hang on a minute, I've got like four other exercises to do, and I'm going to be if I do that the next one, it's just not happening. I'm going to have to go home. So that's the
No.
reason as well why you have multiple exercises and don't just go in and spam squats because you'll just be
Yeah,
fucked.
yeah,
You'll be
yeah.
like, right, I can't do any more squats because my back's fucked. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Mm.
but
It's
yeah,
the same thing with your hip hinges as well, isn't it? I see so many people doing multiple hip hinges across the week, and it's like, dude, you are not being able to train properly because if you do more than that, there is
yeah.
absolutely no way that you can recover
And
from
then
that
they
kind of hip hinge.
complain about not being able to touch their toes because they're so fucked. And it's like, well, do you think that's really
Yeah, yeah.
fucked? That's really good for your body. But yeah, I always find it's always people that well, usually people that have never been involved in any sort of high intensity sport when they were younger
Mm.
that haven't got a clue about how hard they can push themselves. I mean, like, I know I harp on about it, but having been a rower, I think physically I have probably been pushed harder than 99.99% of the population in terms of how hard you can push someone in both the physical sense and the mental sense, and then also in an outdoor environment in all weathers. So
Mm.
when people are complaining that 1 set or 2 sets of leg press is really hard, I'm now like,
Oh,
bro,
cry me a fucking river.
it's like, mate, you haven't rowed down a 5K course after rowing up it, waiting there for 40 minutes. It's -5, and you also need a piss the whole time. Like, you haven't got a fucking clue about what hard is. So I suggest you buck up your ideas and get on and just do a fucking leg press set, you absolute fanny. But like that's
I've had a lot of people ask us, well, ask me, but indirectly us, whether we can actually put on a training camp.
yeah, I've thought about it.
I think it would be quite good, literally, just to show people what intensity actually looks like.
Yeah,
So, yeah, mention it in the comments on the YouTube video. Put the comments on and then see if people would be
they
interested
are
in
on.
doing it.
People can do
Oh, are
it.
they? Well, I'm just
You'd be better
reminding you.
off, you'd be better off posting on Instagram and see if people want to do that.
Oh, we
'Cause,
could do that.
yeah, and the thing is, like, as well, especially with take for instance hack squats, compounds. People will only ever do straight sets on a hack squat. They're
Oh,
terrified of
no.
doing anything more. You make somebody do like if they work up to 3 plates, get them to do a double drop set. See how fast they
Or
can.
even if, oh, do a cluster set. It's fucking gnarly.
Well, that's lung burner, isn't it? People are like, oh, I didn't come here to do cardio. And it's like, well, your legs
Oh,
hurt.
get off.
This is
Cluster sets are beautiful. I love cluster sets on a hack squat. Do like a 4x4 cluster set on a hack squat, but literally maintain tension. And when I say a cluster, you are literally taking 10 seconds. It's not a rest pause.
oh, no.
It's not, that fucking annoys me. This is a cluster. It is like 10 seconds, 4 deep breaths, go fucking again.
Yeah.
Because and use the same weight that you would normally use to actually achieve 12 reps, and then you can really push yourself to actually hit 16 reps.
Mm.
You've accumulated volume by using a different intensity method. So it's
But
so
but
much.
but that's not a straight set, and that's how are you going to progressively overload that? You're not going to grow. Doesn't fucking matter. It's stimulus. Like,
Mm.
if you had
Interesting.
that exact same reason, then doing high intensity interval training wouldn't make you fitter.
Yeah.
So it just people are going, oh well, somebody has said that two sets to failure is the right way to train or the only way to train. It's like, okay, what about all the guys that have gone previously that used to do like 40 sets a body part, like Surgeon Bray? If you don't know who Surgeon Bray is, go look at that man's chest. He did 2 exercises. He did dumbbell flies and he did dumbbell press. And he did like 40 sets on a chest day on both of them. That's fucking stupid. But look at his chest.
Yeah, exactly. You can't argue it. You cannot argue it. But anywho.
It's like
Right, we
plastic.
are on time.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I thought that was a lot of knowledge bombs that kind of got thrown in there. We got health, we got mentality, we got
It was some
training.
efficient yapping.
It was some efficient yapping. We're getting better at this efficiency. It's probably going to be worse next week because we've only had 45 minutes this week, so we'll probably have 3 hours next week. But man, no,
Yeah,
next week we're having a side-by-side podcast, aren't we?
yeah, we're gonna do it at yours. It's Dan will be involved as well, I
I'm
presume.
assuming so.
Yeah.
We shall figure it out.
We can't he'll be peeled, so he'll be like,
Yeah, yeah, he'll be cross-eyed, and bushy-tailed and shit. So hilarious. Anywho,
okay.
right. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we shall see you next week.
End of episode 2. See you later.